The Pixel 7 Pro is probably the best phone Google has launched so far. Every new Pixel device needs to be better than the last and go beyond any minimal updates and feature add-ons to get you to consider updating to it. That's just pretty much what everybody considers when they're thinking about upgrading their phones. The Pixel A line is the exception, as those devices seem to deliver a lot of bang for your buck when you're on a budget, that is, because those are just phenomenal devices. If you're interested in seeing the Pixel 6a review that I did, I'll leave a card here or it will be linked in the description. So that's something for you to consider. Google has spent some time refining the Pixel Pro, and it really shows with this 7. Before we get any further into this video, full disclosure, Google was nice enough to provide this device to me for my unfiltered and honest thoughts on what my experience has been using this phone. This review was made possible through the Gift from Google campaign, and I really appreciate their continued support. With that said, this is my long-term review of the Google Pixel 7 Pro. Google finally added Face Unlock, and it helps with accessing my content more quickly. There's a significantly improved fingerprint sensor, and it feels much more responsive and accurate. I find myself entering my PIN much less than I was on my 6 Pro. The software experience has been tightened up, and it seems much more polished on the user end. The stills camera is still one of the best when it comes to Android devices and even iOS devices, if I am to speak honestly on that. The body of this phone still features a futuristic visor from the 6, but it has definitely been refined to a better fit and finish overall. Holding it without a case is less uncomfortable than it was of its predecessor, especially around the visor area. Before getting any deeper into this review, and if you're looking for a quick summary of my thoughts, it's a great update, but it's only a marginal update to say the least. And if I'm being honest with you, I'm not quite sure the value proposition is there if you're considering upgrading from the Pixel 6 Pro. It's just too similar in too many ways for me to honestly recommend an update from that level of smartphone at this point. I'm basing this summary off a couple of things, and the first one is a little bit of a weird one, so here we go. The Pixel 6 Pro boots up and is ready to use from a full shutdown much quicker than my 7 Pro, and I'm not quite sure why that is. And the second one, I've been experiencing some heating issues on the 7 Pro that I never encountered with the 6 Pro. The 7 Pro will bump into hot to the touch territory from time to time under heavy use, and that is a bit of a concern to me, to say the least. Of course, being an issue that I have been experiencing specifically in my use case, I wonder if the unit that I have or that they provided to me is faulty in some way, shape, or form. Because I asked out on Twitter if anybody else has been, experiencing these same issues, and I got no positive feedback on that. I don't know if it's just me, but I am just going off the usage of my specific device in this test case. So you're just gonna have to take it for what it is. And I've had this thing for about 3 months now. So those are my 2 concerns for this device. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about these things in more detail. Google's software experience is my favorite of the Android world, and the best-in-class camera are still some of the best in any camera in the Android space. Google kept going with this very unique hardware/visor design for the Pixel 7 Pro that still doesn't look like any other smartphone on the market. The front is basically all screen, which is really nice. If you drop this thing, it's pretty much toast. That's probably due to the thing that I don't like is the rounded screen edges. For one, I get some false inputs when I'm holding this thing in my hand without a case. And the second reason is that it's really hard to find a good screen protector. I wish they would just go with a flat design. I will say that the glass is less curvy on the edges than that of the 6 Pro. Therefore, that's a plus in my book because they're making improvements, but just the next one, please just make it a flat screen. I would really just appreciate that. And if you want the kind of boxy feel that it has, just go with what the Pixel 6a has. I really love that phone. That thing feels great in the hand. In my opinion, a smartphone shouldn't feel sharp in your hands, yet the 7 Pro does just that. Not that this really matters because most people will put a case on it, and that really makes this for a moot point. If you put a nice case on this, it won't really matter. But if your case isn't good enough and you do drop this device, like I was saying, this thing was most likely going to be toast especially if you drop it on concrete. I will say with the curved edges on the screen, there's very minimal distortion, if there is any at all. I like the snow white color that I have in this video. The polished chrome trim and accents really make this phone look premium. I've heard the downside though is that the camera bar scratches pretty easily, so be careful. I've been fortunate enough to not have had scratched mine, and I'm glad that I haven't because that would really stand out. I've seen some really crazy examples. My Pixel 7 Pro still looks as good as new, so if you get the 7 Pro, definitely put a case or a skin on it right away. I think the most significant improvement to the Pixel 7 Pro this year is the addition of different biometrics and the additional unlocking options. Google added Face Unlock, which gets you to your content quicker, and the underscreen fingerprint sensor is definitely been improved, at least from my perspective. I'd say 9 out of 10 times it unlocks without issue using the Face Unlock, and most of the time it just works. And when it doesn't, the fingerprint sensor cleans up right behind it, and I really never have to put in my PIN. The 6 Pro, if the fingerprint sensor didn't work, I had to enter my PIN. So there's a definite improvement in that area. Another area where Google did not compromise on the Pixel 7 Pro is the display, and it absolutely shows. This is probably the most important part of any smartphone, in my opinion, and this display does not disappoint because it's fantastic. I think considering the specs to other devices, the viewing experience on this device is one of the best on any smartphone, in my honest opinion. It's just beautiful. Dollar for dollar value, it's one of the best screens you can get for your money. The Pixel 7 Pro's big 6.7-inch OLED offers a decent 512 ppi with 120 Hz refresh rate with HDR10 plus support. You can also set it to the full resolution QHD plus that delivers an impressive 3120 by 1440 resolution without sacrificing the refresh rate or anything else. It's just a beautiful display. The only concern I have for the display is its brightness capability. It just doesn't get that bright. You won't have any issues with indoor use, but when it comes to direct sunlight, you'll need to grab some shade to see what is on your phone or put your hand over your device. I wouldn't be too concerned with this because it's pretty easy to, like I said, put your hand over the display and get the information you need quickly. An area of disappointment with the Pixel 7 Pro is the dual speaker setup on this phone. If I remember correctly, I don't think Google has ever called out or even talked about the speakers on the Pixel line of devices, so it's not a fair comparison for me to make. It's just something I've noticed. It delivers clarity in what you're watching or listening to, but the speaker setup is so that the bottom left grill of the device is the only one that is driving sound. So if you cover that up with the finger or something like that, it will significantly degrade the audio quality. It does a good job minimizing distortion at the max volume, but otherwise it's pretty standard, maybe even a weak phone when it comes to the speakers. Let's just go ahead and get into a sample. Just be aware that this is being recorded on a camera and whatnot, so let's get into that and you take a listen for yourself. So what's inside the Pixel 7 Pro? Let's talk a little bit about specifications. It's powered by Google's second generation Tensor G2 processor. That is paired with 12 gigabytes of RAM. You'll get 8 gigabytes of RAM on the Pixel 7, and that's not the Pro. And you have the option of either 128, 256, or 512 gigabytes of onboard storage. Unfortunately, there's still no support for SD cards on this Pixel device. The Tensor G2 delivers one of the most snappiest and most fluid Android experiences out now, and I'm enjoying Android 13 on this smartphone. I will say that you aren't going to be overly impressed by its performance, as any measurable speed or performance increases year over year from the 6 Pro. Both of them are great phones. On that note though, is that I've noticed the 7 Pro heat management and throttling is more frequent over the 6 Pro, especially when using picture-in-picture mode with multitasking in any way. This thing gets hot. I will say that I think that I may have a defective unit, so your experience may vary. Pretty sure it will, because I haven't been able to verify with anybody else that they've been experiencing the same issues that I have. I mean, this thing got really, really hot. I even tweeted about it and asked for feedback from other Pixel 7 Pro users. And with that, nobody said that they were experiencing that same issue. The Pixel 7 Pro has 3 less milliamp hours found on the 6 Pro, coming in at an even 5,000 milliamp hours. The changes are not significant enough for me to notice a difference between the two devices, except for when I'm doing the picture-in-picture mode. The Pixel 7 Pro will drain its battery much quicker than the 6 Pro. When it comes to battery life on the 7 Pro, you get plenty of power to get you through a day easily. And if you're one of those that use battery saver mode, you can extend the screen on time of this thing well beyond its usual, day of use. You can get probably 2 days of use out of this thing. Under heavy use, I can get around 8 to 10 hours of screen on time any given day without enabling any of those power saving settings. It's just when I try to do any kind of screen picture-in-picture stuff, that's when I start to drain this thing pretty heavily, and it goes pretty quickly. But on average, 8 to 10 hours screen on time, easily. In my uses, I wasn't able to kind of differentiate the battery penalty when I have high resolution and 120 hertz turned on over the 6 Pro. It may be a placebo effect, but I think I'm getting a little bit better battery life over the 6 Pro when I have those two things turned on, even with the heat and throttling issues that I'm experiencing from time to time. So take that for what it is. I didn't do any scientific testing. It felt kind of the same. If you want to save a lot of battery, turn off the 120 hertz refresh rate and the high resolution. You'll definitely go into the 10, maybe even 12 hours of screen on time without those two things enabled. Additionally, turn off the always on display so you can save a little bit of battery there as well. The 23 watt charging speeds for both wired and wireless aren't anything crazy. I will say using the wireless charging way makes the phone get really hot, which makes me worry about the battery health over a long period of time. With wired, however, I didn't experience any issues. This thing charged pretty quickly, and if you have one of those high-powered wall chargers, you can charge this thing way fast. Moving to close this video out, when we talk about Pixel phones, we of course have to talk about the cameras. Once again, I have no issues in saying that the Pixel 7 Pro absolutely has one of the best photo cameras you can buy on any smartphone. But it doesn't provide what I would consider a creative video camera, or a video camera for creatives. Google limiting the frame rates will always rub me the wrong way, and I don't know why they do this. It's a software change. You get auto 30 and 60 FPS when filming with the rear camera in video mode. You can bounce from 0.5, 1, 2, and 5 times zooms, and that transitions nicely and quick. If I could summarize the camera on the Pixel 7 Pro, it's the same camera as the 6 Pro with some really nice improvements. 1, you get autofocus on the 12 megapixel ultra wide sensor and a bit wider field of view. 2, the 48 megapixel has been updated now to have the quad Bayer technology built in. With that, it brings the 5 times zoom and 30 times super zoom capabilities to the sensor, but you will sacrifice some field of view as it goes from about 24 degrees wide to down to around 20 degrees. So that field of view shrinks a little bit. Not a bad trade-off in my opinion, because you still get all the Google magic under the hood when it comes to taking spectacular photos. The selfie camera was, for whatever reason, changed from a 10.8 megapixel down from 11.1 on the 6 Pro. I don't know why they did that, but it is what it is. I didn't really notice a whole lot of difference there. The Google Camera app brought forward a handful of new tools and shooting modes that I think the average everyday picture and video taker will enjoy. Enhanced video stabilization for heavy movement is super useful and works pretty good. The cinematic video mode, which is somewhat glitchy from time to time, you know, how it tries to blur out the background, it does a good job in well-lit areas where there's a lot of contrast. With this phone, I think it's easy to see why a lot of people prefer Pixel phones for stuff like this that Google offers as far as like software features over any other Android phones. I still think it falls short in the video department when compared to iPhones. That's probably not just a thought, it's probably a fact, because iPhones definitely deliver a superior video experience. Pictures, on the other hand, are a different story because the images you get off the 7 Pro are some of the most detailed and most true to life looking photos you can get on any smartphone, period. In closing, I think the Pixel 7 Pro is one of the most complete and well-rounded Pixel devices Google has launched in recent years. All things considered, this is the Pixel device you could absolutely keep for 2, maybe even 3 years without any complaints, but it's really hard to go beyond those 3 years because Android phones kind of expire much quicker than those iOS counterparts. Well, there you have it. Those are my thoughts on the new Pixel 7 Pro after using it for a couple of months. I'd love to hear what you guys think of this phone, so feel free to let me know with a comment down below if you have this thing, or if you're thinking about upgrading to it, or if you're experiencing any usage issues that I have or have been. Please let me know down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have this phone, please share your experiences with others too, because that will help, kind of bring this thing full circle and all of that stuff with anybody considering this phone for an upgrade, or if they want to go to it. And so maybe you can speak to the heating issues that I'm having. Maybe you can say that you aren't having those, whatever. Leave me a comment down below. Before I close, I have to disclose this video was made possible with the gift from Google campaign. So without them, this video would not have been possible, and I appreciate their continued support, like I said earlier in this video. Well, that about does it for me in this one. If you like this video, please feel free to give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, you know what to do. Thank you for taking the time to watch. I'm Tomas, and I'll catch you in the next one.